What's going on, everyone? My name is Under the Radar, and welcome back to the draft analysis on this channel. This league is called EWT. I was in this league once before, but I unfortunately had to drop due to personal reasons. I believe it was season 1. I played one game and I lost it, and I wasn't having fun with mons at the time, so I stopped playing. But I'm really glad that Auto decided to have me back. I'm really glad, because I love being in leagues that Auto runs. To be honest, they typically are ran really well, and there's not much that I ever disagree with, but typically with other leagues I disagree with a handful of things. So it's really nice being in leagues with Auto. So thank you, Auto, for inviting me into the league. But let's go ahead and talk about this draft. So I was 10th overall, I believe. I was like smack dab in the middle, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to go into this league, and I wanted to get a duo of Reggie Alecki plus Reggie Drago, because they're hard-walled by two typings that are pretty easy to pressure, in my opinion. So I wanted to draft both of them, so that way if I brought both of them to a game, and I brought one specs, one banded, one specs, one heavy duty boots with spin, and the other DD, like, I figured that they could put on enough pressure on my opponent's team that they would be fun to build around. So that's what I went into the draft wanting to do. And you guys will see that it didn't make drafting difficult, but there were some things that I wanted to build around that there just ended up being better things on the board. So I ended up taking something earlier on, and it made the rest of the draft a little bit harder. So let's go ahead and just talk about the team. So with the first pick overall, I knew that the first thing I wanted was Rillaboom. And I wanted Rillaboom for a couple different reasons. I wanted Rillaboom because grassy terrain recovery, weakening earthquakes for Reggie Alecki, a grass type to nuke ground types, a grass type that can nuke fairy types. I knew that it could break both of the typings that I needed broken in order for Reggie Alecki or Reggie Draco to sweep. I also knew that it opened up a lot of other opportunities for offensive mons if I ended up not going that route. Like, it opened up a lot of opportunities for things like Hawlucha, Hitmonlee. It opened up a lot of unburdened things like Slurpuff. It opened up a lot of doors for offensive capabilities outside of Rillaboom. But Rillaboom also offers a lot of utility that I think is personally really important in a draft. It gives you access to knockoff, U-turn, wood hammer. It gives you access to priority and grassy glide, very strong priority. It gives you access to a mixed attacker because it does have a decent special attack stat at 60. And it means that if you need to hit something on the special side with a grass type move, because it's like really physically defensive, like I'm trying to think of where this would come in handy, or like a really physically defensive ground steel type, you can actually still hit it with things like earth power, and it not do literally zero. It would still do a decent amount. Like superpower would probably still do more, but like it still has a usable special attack stat. It's decently bulky with 190/70, so Assault Vest is really good. Ultimately, it gives me a lot of things that I really like in a grass type. The only thing that I could have asked for was Stealth Rocks, but Celebi is the only grass type with U-turn and Stealth Rocks. So I think I got a really good Pokemon round 1. Typically, if you don't get it round 1, you're not going to get it round 2. And with moving forward, I knew exactly how I wanted to build around the rest of the team. So once I had Rillaboom, I started talking with Mono, and I started realizing that this draft was taking Pokemon round 1 that didn't need to be taken round 1, leaving unbelievable Pokemon on the board still. Like, unbelievable Pokemon were still on the board, and I took the best one that was there, and that was Zygarde. Zygarde Snake was still there in round 2, paired with Rillaboom. And this is where the plan of going Reggie Alecki and Reggie Drago kind of sort of fell off, like this early into the draft, because I was like, I'm not going to go dual dragon whenever I don't think they would work that well together. In hindsight, they would work well together, but it would make me extremely weak to ice, and I would need a really fat water to help with that. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't even remember what my fat water is. Oh no, I remember what it is now. But it just, I don't think it works that well together. So I think that these two pair phenomenally. I have a ground type that really benefits from having grassy terrain up. It makes it very, 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 very fat. It means that a lot of my opponent's Pokemon won't be able to break subs because I'm going to be getting leftovers and grassy terrain recovery, along with being able to build this thing super fat to be able to go for coil, SD, glare, things of that nature. 1,000 Arrows is not weakened by grassy terrain. It is just, it is a phenomenal Pokemon, and I think that this pairing together is amazing. And getting it in a 16-person league is kind of sort of shocking to me. So Zygarde is Zygarde. It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't need to go into it too much. It's basically just all around unbelievably fat. Could be mixed, could be DD, glare, coil, could be special, could just be haze, glare. Like it can do everything. It gets access to pain split for recovery. Like it does what it needs to do every single week, and it can win every single week. It is a phenomenal Pokemon. So going into round 3, there were a handful of Pokemon that I wanted. One of them was Vaporeon. I wanted to have the really fat water wish support to be able to switch in on ice type, switch in on Scalds, and be fine. Frosted took it to pick before me. So that was heartbreaking, and it ruined a lot of what I wanted, because so typically I don't take Vaporeon in round 3. I typically take it round 4. Because typically you can get something that's a little bit better, like a Slowbro, like a Slowking, like a Milotic. But I really wanted the witch support plus the water immunity plus the ice resist. And Frosted took it right before me, and that really hurt a lot of what I wanted. And at that point I was kind of like, well, I don't really want any other water types. Like there's not much of a water type that I want, so I'm going to hold off on it. I'm going to get other key pieces of this team that I really, really wanted. And the other key piece of this team that I really wanted is I wanted versatility. I wanted versatility that I could customize every single week to whatever I feel as though my opponent is unbelievably weak to. If I can look at their team and say, oh, you have a really big weakness to X, you don't have that good of this resist, you don't have a way of switching into this, then I want to be able to just customize that Pokemon to this. So that means that I took Sylvell in round 3. Now this is also points. I'm not going to go into the points because it doesn't really matter. I got my points to work out, and that's all that you guys should really care about. For those of you that do care, I think it was like 17, 19, 13, something like that. But I wanted Sylvell because I wanted a all-around just versatile Pokemon. It's about as close to a Mew as you can get without being a psychic type, without having rocks, but gets access to the big thing that really turned me on with this Pokemon is multi-attack. 120, 100% accurate, 0 drawbacks, stab with whatever type I make this thing. So if I'm going up against a team that doesn't have a good ground resist, I can literally bring Banded Zygarde and Sylvell ground with multi-attack and just go to town and nuke everything. So that's kind of how I wanted to look at it. If I needed a Pokemon that could just nuke everything, I could. But if I also notice that my opponent doesn't have the best way of breaking a certain type, like if they don't have a steel or a poison type, they're going to struggle to break fairies. So I could bring Sylvell Fairy and have really strong fairy types, because poison and steel is about all that resists fairy. So then I can just fire off super powerful fairy type attacks while also not being able to be broken. So I really wanted to have a versatile Pokemon that I could bring every single week, that I could also bring alongside these two and customize however I wanted. Move pool's phenomenal. Don't really need to go too much into that, but basically it's just, that was the role of Sylvell. Customization for every single week. And then next up, I realized I didn't have rocks, I realized I didn't have a steel type, and I realized that my team is generally kind of slow. Like I have 95, 95, 85. So I wanted to make sure that I had something a little bit faster to force things like Latios to be able to run Timid. And I also wanted a Stealth Rocker. I wanted something that could pivot potentially, and I wanted something that could also be a bulky or offensive threat. And realistically, the only thing that came to mind immediately that I just kind of ran with was Cobalion. Now, Cobalion I really wanted for like this set here. And then like Stab, like that's really what I wanted it for. Iron Head. I really wanted like just a Stealth Rock, Volt Switch, Taunt to be able to break up my opponent's fat if I need to, get up rocks reliably, click Taunt on their walls, Volt Switch out if I need to if they don't have a ground type, and then drop in my Zygarde, my Rillaboom, my Sylvell, whatever I have that is designed that week to be able to win. That was the main goal. That was exactly what I wanted, and I think I'm going to be really surprised by Cobalion. I love Cobalion. I've used it a couple times before, and it never disappointed, but it never stood out. It was always like that thing. I was like, oh yeah, Cobalion's pretty good, and then it did okay in the battle, and then it just set up for the pathway for other Pokemon, and it never like was, yes, this Pokemon is phenomenal. Also, if you've watched until this point, stay after I'm done clicking record on this video, because I'm going to be showing the custom sprites for the Pokemon that I drafted in this league. So make sure you guys stick around for that. It is super cool, like what I ended up getting, or like what I ended up making. I'm really proud of the vast majority of them. So anyway, but Cobalion I also really liked because it does have setup in Calm Mind, SD, so it could be a sweeper, it could be a breaker. It does have access to Iron Defense if I want to be like Speed Up with Iron Defense. It does have really good coverage now. It got some pretty good moves in the Sword and Shield games, which are like Mega Horn. It had Poison Jab before. But it also gets access to things like Thunder Wave and Toxic, which is really nice. Aside from that, there's like nothing crazy new, like nothing insane, but I think that this Pokemon, it does exactly what I needed it to do. It's also something that benefits from grassy terrain as well, with not being weak to Earthquake anymore in grassy terrain. So that was another thing that I also really wanted. I didn't want a Steel type that was quad weak to Earthquake and then have Earthquake or Stomping Tantrum still be a problem in grassy terrain. So yeah, these are the 4 mons that I decided to really like, not pigeonhole, but force myself into, is I think how I'm going to word it. I really wanted to force myself into these 4 because they're 4 Pokemon that I feel as though I can slap onto a team every single week, and then I can figure out a way to make them win. And that's really what I like. Next up, I wanted a Fairy type because I lost out on Vaporeon with Wish. I wanted a Fairy type. I wanted it to be able to Wish. I wanted it to be decently bulky. And I also like an offensive presence with my fat Pokemon, which is why I like things like Sylveon. I like things like Vaporeon. I like fairies that can be offensive. And something I noticed, that if I have these speed tiers, right? Webs might not be bad either. So initially I just went with Slurpuff. It works really well. I went with Slurpuff because of webs. Unburden with Grassy Seed is going to give me the ability to run things like Grassy Seed plus Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, have a lot of speed, be able to have the +1 boost in the defense, and then go for Calm Minds to be able to boost up. It's going to give me a lot of access to a lot of offensive potential, but also still give me access to decent bulk with 82, 86, 75. For a fat fairy, switching in on moves that typically you take pretty well, like fighting, like dragon, it's pretty easy to it's pretty easy to see how this could be really good. And if I need a fatter fairy, one that's just a little bit fatter than these stats, I can always go Sylvell fairy. So that was another reason why I went with a bulky fairy that's not crazy bulky. But the other big thing this does is this gives me sticky webs, and sticky webs is really good for Zygarde, it's really good for Rillaboom, and it's really good for some of the later Pokemon that I also have that I will get into. But I really like this. So right now I have a rocker, I have a sticky webs user, And ultimately, I think that the next couple picks really tie the whole team together. I'm going to pause for just a quick second and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm not going to go over too much of what Slurpuff does. We've all known it for a really long time, but basically Sticky Webs plus Wish right now is what I was going for with my Fairy, and then the fact that it can also be offensive just makes it even better. Next up, this was a Pokemon that I committed to before the draft. This was a Pokemon that I knew for a fact was something that was high on my priority list to get for the purposes of pressuring fat grounds, because if you look right now, fat grounds are really pressured with this team. Like Cobalion is usually checked by things like Landorus, like things like Rhydon potentially to be able to take a hit, but it can Magnetize up, it can beat them. Things like Nidoqueen try to switch in on its dual stabs. So grounds are kind of pressured by Cobalion alone, but I wanted another one that typically puts even more pressure on them because it doesn't have the best resists like in the game just in general, and that is going to be Drapion. So I wanted Drapion because of Toxic Spikes. Like, that's a big one. I wanted Toxic Spikes on the team to be able to chip down fat grounds, but I also wanted to be able to do things like Sniper with SD Night Slash and knock off Poison, Cross Poison to be able to hit things super, super hard with these dual stabs, break down the fat grounds, because I'm still getting Reggie at the Slurpuff round. I still committed to getting just Reggie. That was like the one thing that I was most excited to use. Reggie Drago was kind of just a meme. It was a meme that I was committing to in order to have like a cool meme. But once I went Zygarde and I didn't want to go Double Dragon, I was still committed to Reggie. So this is a really good way of breaking fat grounds. It is a phenomenal way of breaking fat grounds because they don't want to switch in on things like Crit Night Slashes. They don't want to switch in on things like knockoffs, poison, Toxic Spikes, things of that nature. So it is a phenomenal way for me to pressure everything. And this also gives me another check to offensive grasses on the opponent's team, because if you look right now, I don't have the best grass resist. Like, I have Cobalion, which is decent, but I'm gonna probably be using this as like a more I don't know, it's decent, but it's not the best grass resist, and I am going to be setting up grassy terrain for my opponents. So if I'm able to set up Toxic Spikes, make them take damage after taking grassy terrain, and then pressure them the rest of the way with this Pokemon, that's really the goal. But I really like Drapion on this team. I think it works really well, and I think they underpriced it in EWT. I think it was on like 9 points, and like typically I say it at like 11, but it's a great Pokemon. I love it. And then next up, we did end up getting, in fact, Reggie. So let me tell you why I wanted Reggie. I feel as though people poop all over Reggie for no reason. Like, just because it hasn't done well doesn't mean that it's not absolutely busted. I have not seen Arceus do well. That means, no, that's a terrible example. That's a terrible example. But I have never seen anybody draft this thing with the mindset of, I'm going to pressure every single fat ground in the entire game to sweep with Reggie. That I've never seen anybody go into it thinking that. I've seen it where people bring it to games that they don't have the best ground type, and then it can maybe do some work. But like, if you build properly, you can even have this thing clean up everything. Choice Specs and Choice Band is insane. Like, so I've already played my week 1, and I want to let you guys know, like, I've been doing calcs with this because I wanted to see if I could bring it. Like, Choice Banded Body Slam can 2-shot no HP Nidoqueen. So if they think that Nidoqueen can just come in naturally on like a Swift, it can 2-shot it. Same thing with a Nidoking. Choice Banded Body Slam can 2-shot it. It's able to 2-shot fat grasses with Choice Specs Thunderbolt. Like, it's able to do insane amounts of damage, and all you need to do is pressure bulky grounds. Like, that is the only thing standing in its way. Whereas, like, this thing standing in its way could be a fat water with Ice Beam, could be a fat grass, could be a fat fairy, could be a lot of things. Like, there are a lot of ways that people can check really offensive grass types of their own. You've also got bulky steels. You've also got bulky bugs. You've got a lot of things that like can pressure these typings, but with this, it's one type. Like it's one type you got to pressure, and I'm super excited to use Regieleki. I was thinking about this on the way home from work, like before the draft started, that if I'm able to build a team that can pressure fat grounds, that's all I need. So I did end up going with this, and I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with what I went. And so something that you're not noticing here, but so I went really expensive with these two, and then I went like a somewhat decently expensive with these two, but Slurpuff, Drapion, and Regieleki are all under 9 points, so I actually still have a lot of points remaining. I think I still have the most points remaining on the board as of round 8. And if I'm able to use those points properly, I can still actually get a really good fat water, because there are 2 on the board at this point that both of them cannot be afforded by anybody else on the entire draft. So I have my pick with which one I want, and to be honest with you guys, I'm still considering grabbing the other one, the one that I drafted, because it's still there and I can still pretty much do whatever I want. Anyway, so once I got Regieleki, I had my special breaker, I had my cleaner. Also, the 200 base speed is literally invaluable. It is the most important thing of this Pokemon. You can run Modest every single week and still outspeed Choice Scarf base 105s, I think. That is stupid. There is no realm of reality where that should ever be possible. Like, it is unbelievable how fast this Pokemon is. So really, really cool. Like, I think it hits 255, 252. That is insane. That is insane. Wild Pokemon, absolutely wild. And of course, if you don't know why it's so good, because I didn't really go into that, I figured everybody would know. Transistor makes this Pokemon's attack stat multiply by 1.5 when using electric type attacks. So it basically gets a choice specs on top of its already attacks, or a choice band. So if you run choice specs, you're essentially making your electric type attacks do 3 times their base damage. It's wild. It's super strong. Even though it only has base 100 and base 100, it definitely is insanely strong. So next up, I wanted my fat psychic, because spoiler alert, one of the 2 fat waters that are on the draft, that are on the board that I'm considering, are Slowbro and Milotic. Now Slowbro I do really want, but if I get Slowbro, I'm going to struggle to find bulk elsewhere in the tiers, because there isn't that much good bulk lower in the tiers, because the other really bulky mon I wanted was Double, and that got drafted the same run Regieleki got drafted. So I was going to go Slowbro, Double, something. Like that's what I was going to do for my bulk in my lower tier bulk, since I don't have like walls in my higher Pokemon, but I have bulky pivots. I wanted walls mixed with this fat water that I was getting, and one other Pokemon somewhere else. And whenever Double got taken, I kind of sort of committed to the other bulky water type. So I went ahead and I got Musharna. Musharna is extremely fat. It is just as fat. I think it's actually fatter than Reuniclus. It is almost as strong as Reuniclus, having a base 107 special attack stat. It has really good coverage as well, and it does get access to Baton Pass, Moonlight. It gets access to stored power, super slow, so it gets slow baton passes. It gets access to Heal Bell, I believe, as well, right? Yeah, it does. Healing Wish as well if I need to heal up my Zygarde. Like, it has really good potential as a fat Pokemon. And I used this thing in NCP in the season that I made it to, I think, semifinals, and it was really good. I was able to make this thing wall a bunch of things, and because it does have access to Dazzling Gleam, Darks can't come in on its Psychic type attacks. It has access to Shadow Ball, so Ghost can't come in. It gets access to Psychic, Thunder Wave, and Toxic again, which is really good. And another thing that I really like was Trick. So depending on what their switch in is, I could also run Trick Ring Target. If their fat ground is their switch into this, I can go Trick Ring Target, and I can trick my Ring Target onto something else, and I can then begin to just blow through with Regieleki still. So super cool Pokemon. I really like Musharna. I think it'll be a Pokemon that I will be bringing a lot more than I'm expecting, but because I have so many amazing Pokemon on this draft, like I genuinely think I only have one bad Pokemon on this draft, and that's really saying something whenever I'm saying it, because typically I say a lot of Pokemon are bad, but yeah, really fat psychic type. I needed it because it also really helps out that I have grassy terrain with it, because it just becomes a lot bulkier with grassy terrain in it. So then the final 3 picks. This one was the most important pick of the draft. And that's really bad to say for a 4-point Pokemon, but it was the one that if I got sniped of, I was screwed to no end, and that is Colossal. I needed spikes. Also, something about Regieleki. I have a really good rapid spinner in Regieleki, because what walls Regieleki? Ground types, right? Why would you ever switch in a ghost type on a Regieleki and allow me to spin for free if I'm the heavy duty boots set? I'll wait. You can think about it. One of the best rapid spinners in the game. Anyway, I really wanted Colossal for a couple different reasons. One, I really like Flame Body. Flame Body is one of my favorite abilities. I also love Static. They're 2 of my favorite abilities in the game, because it's literally just a way to prevent U-turn, and I hate getting U-turned on, even though I love U-turning. But the other big thing I wanted is I wanted another Stealth Rocker, I wanted Spikes, I wanted another Rapid Spinner, and I wanted something that was able to pressure my opponent's team to force them to go into something like a bulky ground on a fire type attack to take some chip damage, or to take some hazards damage, or to allow me to get up hazards for free. And this thing really can wall certain typings. It can wall a lot of typings. The Rock Fire is really, really nice, along with Flame Body. It can actually be pretty decent at doing a lot of different things, but it also forces ground coverage on Pokemon that I might have grassy terrain. So it is super, super cool. And like the move coverage is whatever, like it's access to cool things like Burn Up and things like Overheat, Iron Defense, like whatever. It gets access to Scald and Scorching Sands, whatever. Like the move pool doesn't really matter for me. It's these 3 moves that I really liked in Colossal that I really, really wanted. Next up, the bulky water that I ended up getting was my... No. What's Milotic? So I ended up getting Milotic as my bulky water. Why? Okay, so here was my mindset with it. I could have gone Slowbro, and I could have had a little bit more well-rounded bulky water type with like a little bit better defense. But if you look at my team, right? Decent Phys Def, a little bit more Spadef, so I can run this a little bit more mixed defensive. Really good defense. Really good defense. Really good defense. Decent defense. Like, I'm good on the defensive end, in my opinion. I think I'm good on the defensive end, and so having a water type that could be a really good special wall, and being able to flip turn, recover, toxic, haze, and be able to just do standard Milotic stuff, I think is really important. And if I'm able to flip turn, I'm able to bring this thing in on bulky grounds for Regieleki. I'm able to flip turn on whatever they bring in on this, whether it's a fat grass, whether it's a fat anything, and I can take advantage of it with a lot of different things. If it's a fat grass, I can take advantage of it with Drapion. If it's a fat steel, I can take advantage of it with Cobalion or Zygarde, or whatever I craft Sylvell into. Or if they don't have a ground type, I flip turn on whatever they bring in on Milotic, drop in Regieleki, and I get 5 kills. Like, it is... I think the team is very, very good. And I think it's only missing one thing at this point. I think it's only missing one Pokemon, and I wanted a flying type. I wanted a flying type, and I have 2 points remaining at this point, so I need a low tier flying type. And the difficult portion of this is I knew which flying type I wanted, but I knew I would get flamed for it, but I don't care because this Pokemon's good. Okay, this Pokemon's good. I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to say its name because I feel as though people aren't going to respect it if I say its name. But this Pokemon has decent stats. like it is extremely weak to electric. I get that. I have pretty decent electric switch-ins, so I'm okay with that. But the big thing that I really, really like about this Pokemon is its speed stat being 85. So it can outspeed a lot of walls. And it gets access to some really interesting moves that can help it get a lot of chip damage off on the team. For example, this set right here is phenomenal. if you don't know what this set does, it basically, and a lot of people do like this thing with it as well, if like you have like toxic spam or whatever. Basically, you click surf on whatever comes in. You then have your Gulging form that then puts a fish in your mouth. You click endure to take the next hit guaranteed, and whenever you take the attack, you then shoot out the fish, and it takes 25% of the damage, just so you can see, 25%, and lowers the defense by 1 stage. So I think that this could have a lot of merit versus some teams, because some teams just don't have the best electric coverage. Some teams just don't have the best way of hitting this. But what this can do is this can get a lot of damage off on certain Pokemon and lower their defense. And in case you haven't noticed, these first 5 Pokemon are all physical attackers. Like, they can be mixed, but like they're all really strong physical attackers, meaning that they would have to switch out, give me a free turn to set up with a lot of them. And I think it just has a lot of niche utility, decent offensive stats, and then to be able to run things like Surf, Hurricane, things like that. So I really like this team. This also gives me a defogger, I believe. Yeah. So I really like this Pokemon. I think it actually does have some merit, and I think I'm going to bring it to a couple games. I've already scouted ahead a few games to see where I would bring it. I wish it had U-turn, man. If it had U-turn, God, it would be so good. It would be so good. But that is the team that we're going to be rocking with for the EWT. We got Rillaboom, Zygarde, Sylvell, Cobalion, Slurpuff, Drapion, Reggie, Musharna, Colossal, Milotic, and Cramorant. That is going to be the team that we're going into with EWT. Week 1, we take on Grandmaster D-Ray and his Los Angeles Guerrilla Tactics. Make sure you guys check that one out whenever it goes live, because I love D-Ray. He is one of my favorite people in the community. I liked him so much that within like a handful of weeks of knowing him, I invited him to my wedding because he was just super chill and super great to always be around. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that battle. I'm going to leave a link to D-Ray's channel down below since he's my week 1 opponent. Go check out his draft analysis to keep an eye out for what that matchup might be. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching. Actually, no, I'm not going to go ahead and get on out of here. I'm going to pause and I'm going to show you guys the custom sprites that I did for all of these. Okay, so before I show the first one, I wanted to tell you guys kind of sort of what the ideas behind these were, because I talked with a lot of people beforehand and I couldn't really decide on some of them, and I'm only displeased with a couple of them on how they turned out, and I might redo them. But so the first one with Rillaboom, I wanted it to be cherry blossom. I wanted it to be springtime, and since I live in the DC area, like the cherry blossoms in DC are always one of my favorite things to go see. So I really wanted Rillaboom to be like this beautiful cherry blossom springtime monkey, and I think it turned out pretty good. I even was able to put a flower in the center of its little drum. I really like the way this turned out. I think that it really stands out and is a drastic change from what Rillaboom originally was, without taking away what Rillaboom was in the design. So I'm super happy with this. Super happy with the way this turned out. I think this one might be my favorite. No, this one isn't my favorite one. Reggie is my favorite one. This one is like top 3 of my favorites. But so for Zygarde, I wanted the design inspiration to be a mixture of the trio. Well, the mixture of the other 2 of the trio from Xerneas, Yveltal, Zygarde. I wanted it to be a mixture of Xerneas colors and Yveltal colors. Now the thing is, Yveltal's already black, Zygarde already has black in it, so I just left that the same and I turned Zygarde into a pink color. So that way it kind of has that different vibe of black to pink. However, I also made it to where whenever it goes for an attack animation, no, not that one, it turns blue for Xerneas instead of green or like the light green for Zygarde. So I was able to do some really cool stuff with it. I really like the way that turned out. The fact that I got it to be able to change colors like that is sick. But yeah, next one Liv did because I couldn't find any true motivation for it or true inspiration from it, and that is going to be Sylvell. I just wanted a demon dog. I wanted a Pokemon that literally just looked like it was a demon, and I think this one turned out pretty well. Just looks like a hellhound. For Cobalion, I wanted it to look like it was a golden goat. I wanted it to look like it was made of gold and that its metal body over the years had transformed and become more valuable than the blue that it was, and not look fur-like and look more like gold and make it look like valuable. So I made it look gold and its face turn a little bit more metallic. I really like the way this looks. I really like it a lot. But it's still pretty decent in my opinion. I really like it. I think that it doesn't take away from what Cobalion was, but it makes it look really sick. For Slurpuff, I wanted it to be red velvet cake. It is my favorite cake in the entire world because it's chocolate but red, and I absolutely love it. So I made it look like red velvet cake, which I really like. I also like red velvet cake with both chocolate and vanilla icing on it, so that's why it has the chocolate and vanilla on the top. Really cool. Then Drapion, I wanted it to look like a nuclear reactor, or like a nuclear symbol, or like the biohazard symbol with the bright yellow and the black, to make it really stand out and make it very contradictory to a lot of what its colors are, and I wanted it to stand out. So I made it the black and bright yellow, like the radioactive sign, and then I put lime green in a bunch of different places because a lot of them, like the nuclear sludge, is green, and I wanted it to kind of sort of represent that with the colors. Next up, my favorite one is Reggie, because I wanted it to be a storm cloud. I didn't want Reggie to be the embodiment of electric. I wanted it to be the thing that sends out the electric. I wanted it to be the storm cloud, the storm, the dark night that has these flashes of lightning go everywhere. And whenever it goes for an electric type attack, I wanted it to shoot out white like an actual lightning strike from a storm. So I'm really happy with the way that turned out. That one is by far my favorite one. I'm super proud of it. I worked really hard on that one. Musharna, I just wanted it to be a lot lighter because I wanted it to be like sleepy and more calming and more relaxing. For Colossal, I wanted it to be diamonds instead of rocks, but I still wanted to have the lava feel to it, so I made it like Liv actually did it. Made her look more like a diamond mountain type feel. Really like the way this one turned out. And then Milotic, I just wanted it to be a different shade of pastel colors. So I made it like a really pretty like blue and violet and very calming reds and stuff like that. So I wanted Milotic to be very chill. And then for Cramorant, I wanted Cramorant to just be a seagull. Look at that. Oh my god, I love this Pokemon so much. But yeah, so those are the Pokemon that I'm bringing into EWT. I'm super happy with this draft. I'm super happy with everything. I'm super happy with all of the sprites. I might change up Drapion a little bit, but everything else, super happy with. If you guys could, let me know down in the comments section which custom sprite is your favorite sprite that I made. Please let me know, and I will go ahead and I was going to name everything after Norse gods because I'm really on a Thor kick right now, and I think that it would be super cool to do that. But I might also sometimes name them after people that said that that's their favorite one. But yeah, with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.